one of the oldest arguments I could think of when the prequel trilogy started is whether or not the name of the main lightsaber, the one that Anakin has, and later Luke has, and then later Rey has, and it kind of creates this argument of what do you call the lightsaber? Whose lightsaber is it? Because when you look at the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, that's Anakin's lightsaber, the one he used during the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. And so it's like, do you call it his lightsaber, even though it's not his anymore? Through unconventional ways, it's not his, really. It doesn't belong to him, per se, yet he created it. So is it the first person who created lightsaber? Is that who it is? That's what you name it. So every time you talk about Luke and Rey and the lightsaber, you have to say Anakin's lightsaber. Yeah, people do say that, and that's basically the most common thing that most fans, agree with, that it's Anakin's lightsaber. It always is, it's gonna be, but I'm different, because that's not how possessions of items, or you can say hand-me-downs, work. Like, if you're in a situation where you're in the situation of Luke, Anakin's lightsaber is a hand-me-down. So, for me personally, when Luke gets Anakin's lightsaber, it's Anakin's lightsaber. He's just simply borrowing it for the time being, but then he keeps it, at the end of the film. Then, I would say by The Empire Strikes Back, that becomes Luke's lightsaber, because in the real world, I'm going to use a real-life example here of what I mean. So a real-life example would be my mom's car was originally my grandparents' car. They bought it many years ago. My grandparents gave the keys to my mom for us to drive in. Because, at first, we referred to, like, when they gave us the car, it was referred to as the grandparents' car. But as time went on, we called it Mom's car. And we still have the car to this day, and it's called Mom's car. It's my mom's car. I don't say my grandparents' car, because obviously enough time has passed for my family to say this is my mom's car. She used it long enough for it to be her own. That's the same thing for Star Wars. In A New Hope, Luke has a lightsaber. Like I said, he got it from Anakin, from Obi-Wan. That's Anakin's lightsaber in A New Hope. But by the time The Empire Strikes Back comes out, 3 years later in the timeline, I would say that's Luke's lightsaber, because he used it for 3 years. That's enough time to say that's his now. Anakin's lightsaber is a hand-me-down to Luke. And for, during A New Hope, like I said, that's Anakin's lightsaber, because it was brand new to him. That's a hand-me-down. Just like when my grandparents gave the keys to my mom's car, we first called it the grandparents' car, because it's their car. But as time went on, that faded away, and then it became my mom's car. That's the same thing here. As time went on, Luke himself probably said, okay, this is my lightsaber now. Yes, it was my father's. And that's the same with Rey. During The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, because both those films are together, that's Luke's lightsaber. Because Luke had it for a long time, but he didn't. Now, you can argue because, the lightsaber itself was lost in The Empire Strikes Back. It's been gone for a long time, so you can argue it's, reverts back to Anakin's lightsaber, or that status, that name, which I would say, yeah, it is. It's both of them at that point, but for Rey, she's simply using it, it's brand new to her. So to Rey, she should be calling it Luke's or Anakin's lightsaber. But when The Rise of Skywalker, during that time period, a year later, it's Rey's lightsaber. That's how I see it. Now, I know not everyone's going to agree with that. Even though I use a real-life example of how, stuff works. When you get something from someone else, you're going to say it's theirs, but as time goes on, you're going to refer to it as your own. I have stuff that I did not originally have. It was from someone else, but as time went on, it became mine. Because that's how things work. You just say things are yours, even though if it may not be. And I know that seems vague, but that's how it works. And I know enough people are going to agree with that, because, with Star Wars, you can argue, like I said in the beginning of the video, because Anakin built his lightsaber, that just means it's his. He built it, he put the kyber crystal in, it's his, and it will always be his. But at the same time, what I said before with the whole possession thing, when you get something like a hand-me-down, You're gonna say it's the person who handed you down. So for Luke, it's Anakin. For Rey, it's Luke. But as time goes on, you're not gonna refer to it as the previous owner's item. You're gonna refer to it as your own because you make it the way it is. Even though, yeah, because I'm pretty sure you can argue Obi-Wan even used the lightsaber to modify it. I'm pretty sure the models are different between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, but I think that is something in the canon where Obi-Wan changed, like he modified the lightsaber. So you can argue, Anakin's lightsaber became Obi-Wan's lightsaber because he modified, he changed it, so it became his for a little bit. So, take that for what you want, because the whole thing is arguably confusing. Like I said, it's very confusing the way I'm describing it. I'm not the best when it comes to this wording stuff, because when I was thinking about this in my mind, it made sense, but I feel like when I'm saying it, it doesn't, but I know it makes sense to me. But did I make sense to you? Because obviously I know a lot of fans are going to disagree with me on this, because that's how it is. But either way, there are points in the timeline where 4 people have, you could argue, have claimed ownership of one lightsaber. And I'm not counting Finn, because that doesn't count. Finn had it for a couple of hours. That does not count. He's just borrowing it, temporarily having it. That doesn't count. Han doesn't count. In The Empire Strikes Back, he picks up the lightsaber once. Doesn't count. No. Obviously no. If someone has it for a long period of time, it becomes theirs. But how much time? I don't know. I'm not someone that's into that stuff, because I don't know. Let's say a year. The time between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, a year. For the sake of Rey. But for, everyone else, yeah, they had it for a long time. For Luke, that lightsaber, Anakin's, it is his by the time of The Empire Strikes Back. But I'm going to end it here. If you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And do you agree or disagree with what I had to say? Because, his argument, I may have re-sparked the argument again, but, oh well. But, I'm going to go now, so, goodbye, everyone.